Wow. Like total?
Yeah. All right. So we're live right now. Awesome. I want to say thank you for everybody who's tuning in. Pretty sure as we start moving along, we'll start seeing some viewers pop up. And once again, getting the hang of this whole Google Hangout thing, but it's really cool because I'm able to chat with some really awesome people, some good friends of mine. Today we're going to be spending some time chatting with Frank El Medico Rodriguez. Just an amazing ninja at what he does. And so we're going to tackle some projects he's working on, how to even get to where he's at today, and maybe even share some tips and tricks with how to actually, where do we go from here? Where's music headed? Where's, especially like the electronic music production stuff, where's that going and things like that. Just chat. We're going to have a virtual cup of coffee or tea or basket weaving time. Underwater, right. All right, so Frank, go ahead and introduce. Let me introduce you guys to Frank. He's amazing, to say the least. He's worked with so many great artists, DJ Craze, Diplo, Major Lazer. We've got Milkman, which is a project he's working on now, and tons. And I'll just let him go ahead and take the reins. So Frank, go ahead and say what's up, and take it, man. Just talk a little bit about who you are and what you're doing.
Okay. What's up, guys? I hope you hear me well. If you don't, say something. It's there. We have some complicated technology going on right now to make this happen, but it should be pretty cool. Complicated to us all, to the old people.
Yeah.
But yeah, my name is Franklin Rodriguez, Dominican by descent. Like I was born there and I came here. I've been living here way too long to even claim that I'm Dominican, but I always will, because I'm supposed to.
Good.
That's what they say.
I'm like, it's hard for people to believe that I'm Cuban, Puerto Rican, and then they're like, no, are you sure you're not imported from Ireland? And I'm like, no. So,
I was thinking you kind of look like somebody, but I forget who now. It's like, dude,
no.
that's going to kill me till later. But anyway, yeah, so they call me El Medico between the first and last name, especially in the credits, mainly because when I started out, I was tech. There's a teacher. I went to school at SAE in Miami here, and one of my teachers said that there's two ways to get into the studio: assistant or through the tech room. And I somehow managed to get in through the tech room. And I just, because I would come in and fix things, they just started calling me El Medico, and that kind of stuck. And then I was just doing that for a while, but knowing full well that the goal wasn't to just work there, it was to actually work on the music. And one thing led to another, and I started doing a lot of recording. And then I tried to move out of the tech room, which is actually very difficult because you're the tech. You're not supposed to be the guy that works on music. And I was trying to do that with what I knew, which was American music at the time. Like any type of American music. So then a friend of mine that's actually in LA now, he used to live down here, awesome beatboxer, awesome DJ, awesome person, DJ Jace. He was talking to me, and he's like, hey man, don't you speak Spanish? And I'm like, yeah. And you're an engineer? And I'm like, yeah. So why don't you engineer Spanish music? And it seemed like the stupidest thing to say in the world, but it made the most sense in the world. But I was so I had the freaking blinders on and I couldn't see it. So then I started looking for work in Spanish music, and then all of a sudden I started really getting a lot of work in Spanish music. And in the work with Spanish music, I started working with a number of people. Like, I basically worked with every reggaetonero that you could think of during the time when reggaeton was like it. like my coming of age album was Daddy Yankee's second album, which didn't do as well as the first album, but that was their album that, don't tell him, I learned everything basically that I know by working on that album. But I went in saying that I knew.
Oh, of course. So, that's how every engineer does it.
Yeah, hey, can you do this? Yeah, of course I can do that. And then I'd be on Google, how the fuck do I do this? And then I would go and do it, and then they bought it,
Yeah.
So, but that was one of those where it was Hit Factory, 24 hours a day, literally. Because I would, at the time I was a teacher also at the school, so I would literally, and the school that I work at is down the street from the hip factory, so I would literally work at the school and then drive down to the hip factory and work at the hip factory and then drive down to the school and then work at, and it would be like that for like 3 months. So I aged 3 years in those 3 months, but I learned a lot, including mastering, believe it or not, because the last session that I ever did was a session with Mike Fuller, which is the best mastering engineer, hands down, in South Florida. If not many other states, I just don't know many other mastering engineers. But he's one of the best, if not the best, that definitely we all have reached, or the ability to reach. I had to do a sit-in session with him for this same album, and from him I learned a whole lot of stuff about the whole mastering process. Like priceless stuff. I mean, and it was great because somebody else paid for it. You know, like I was getting paid to sit there.
That's awesome.
Hey, can you do that? Yeah, I can do that. And it's like, dude, this is awesome. I learned everything like that I needed to really, at least to get me going on that path. And then, because of the reggaetoneros, the A&R for that label, which was Toy Selecta from a Mexican group called Control Machete, started working with me. And he was one of the key people that got Diplo on, because when it was just Diplo and MIA, he actually had a really long conversation with Diplo and kind of like, in a way, like gave him a little bit of like what he's learned so far, and then Diplo kind of took off from there. But he always kept in touch with Toy. And then one day, like Diplo asked him like, "Hey, who do you know that can do like Mumba?" And he's like, "Well, I don't know Mumba, but I know this guy that used to do all this reggaeton back in the day." And he's like, "Oh yeah," and then that's when I started working with Diplo, and that kind of started the whole transition over into like EDM and the American market. Also, Danny Days gave me he used to be my student at the school, and he's like, and now Danny Days is huge, and he was like, I ran into him after he graduated, and he's like, "Hey, do you master?" And I'm like, "Yeah, of course I master. Remember that?"
That's the rule. That's the rule for tonight, guys. Yes, yeah. I do it, and then learn how to do it.
Go figure it out. Don't like if you say yeah, figure out how to do it. But yeah, of course I master. He's like, and he sent me a few tracks, and that got me going in the house world, and I got a bunch of gigs from the house world because of him, because I worked with Danny Days. And because of Diplo, because he started sending me all this Moombatone. I did his Express Yourself EP. I did a couple of tracks on the second Major Lazer album, and I did a couple of other tracks that came out from then. And now he's busy being a superstar, so eventually he'll hit me up again. I don't know.
Yeah.
He actually just texted me today, some stuff. Like we go back and forth about the Clippers and the Heat, and that's about it.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, he's awfully busy, and out making sure that the world is standing on their feet or hands, I guess. That's what they're...
Everybody got to express themselves, basically.
Yeah, pretty much. Man, that's awesome. That's such an awesome story to hear that, one of the focal points is that, when the opportunity struck, you were basically, whatever you need, I'll fill that void. Let me go ahead and do that, because... coming across a lot of guys who are like producing and wanting to get into the music game, I see that's lacking. I see that people really just want things, given to them. They want it to fall in their lap, and a lot of people are just like, well, what's the formula? What's the 1 + 1 = it's gonna make me successful and rich? And it's like, dude, you're just gonna have to work. You're gonna have to go on the grind, and if there's a need, you gotta fill it, right? So that's kind of I was brought up the same way, like when I would do sessions with Jimmy Douglas, it was like, hey, do you know how to remix? Do you know how to do a drum and bass remix? So, yeah, I started doing that. How about house? Yeah, I can do a house remix. Sure, why not? So it's all about filling that need, man. Because if you can be the hero of the day, you're the guy they keep coming to. So I want to.
Basically, that's what it boils down to. You gotta be the hero of the day every day.
Every day. Yeah, cheers to that, man. So we've got a couple guys viewing and seeing the numbers go up. That's awesome. Guys, I want to invite you to, if you're watching this on the YouTube page, click the little embedded, ask questions thing. If you're watching it on the Google Plus page, ask some questions. I know you might need like a Google, account or a Gmail account, just sign in. But I would love for you guys to interact with us. Go ahead and submit your questions. I'll see them on here, and I'll ask them over to Frank. I've got a couple questions I want to ask him, and just chat about. We're going to get to the good, juicy, meaty stuff, and that's about like mixing and how do you go about getting.
The stroking is all over now. That's it.
Man. So we're gonna get straight to the point in a little bit, because Frank has to go back to doing his like I said, basket weaving underwater, because that's big now. So let's talk a little bit. Let's talk about, you mentioned moombahton, and for those of you who aren't familiar, what is it? It's I would say, like, for me it's like house slowed down, reggaeton sped up, but you're submerged in that culture. How are you feeling about moombahton? Where's it headed? Is it a flash in the pan? What's going on with it?
It's not quite. I actually had this long argument with an A&R the other day at they had a Red Bull party at Grand Central the other day, where Dave Nada was there and a couple of Peligrosa guys from Texas were there. It was really interesting because I was arguing with this A&R. He's an old friend, and we love to spar because he's more about the business and I'm more about the culture in a sense. And he was ready to make moombahton explode, like dubstep exploded. And I was like, you can't do that. You can't do that to the genre. You need to let it be the way it is. And moombahton is a culture now, I think. It's somewhere between what reggaeton turned into now, which is dance music, really. Like they all want to do just pop music because obviously that's where the money is. And what reggaeton used to be, which is just like slow, just dirty, grinding music, with dirty, grinding subjects. And somewhere in between there, thanks to Dave Nada and a couple other guys, you find moombahton in different versions, because like the stuff that Dave plays is not the stuff that, for example, Dylan plays, or the stuff that Happy Colors plays, which I love the stuff he plays, or the stuff that Munchi used to play when he used to play moombahton. And somebody asked me the same question at some point that I had no idea, and I'm like, look, if it's the type of music that, if done right, make women do stupid, crazy, nasty shit.
Oh my goodness! So
if done right, because it's just so slow and just it's just, if done right, it should like make you feel like, yo, I want to move at 20,000 miles an hour, but this music is so slow. I don't get it. What's going on?
Right,
it's like it's 110, but it feels like it's 220. I don't know. It's to me, it's something that's here to stay in its own box, in a sense. Like there will always be people that will love that genre. They will play that genre. They will go to that party. But it's not necessarily something that went pop yet. Will it go pop? If Enrique Iglesias makes a moombahton track, it will go pop, and it will die. That's the exact moment.
So what you're telling me is the meeting I had with Enrique's A&R should not go.
I hope that didn't happen.
It did. I just had a meeting about getting some writers together to do some stuff with Enrique Iglesias, and I'm thinking, man, what if we went moombahton? And so I'm like, well. So when you started saying that, I'm like, Well, hey, listen, we haven't done the record yet. Maybe I'll just give him another.
This guy's example was, look what happened to dubstep when Britney Spears made a dubstep track, and I was like,
yeah. All right. Well, I'll do everyone the favor then. We'll keep Enrique away from So
I think it's too slow for him anyway. So whatever.
Man, I agree. Like it's a genre of music that when you hear it at moombahton to me is going back to the house parties, where you would set up, you and your friends would set up your DJ sets, and you would rock your boy's house party. And the dance has just gone completely commercialized, and that's taken a whole nother life of its own. So that's a whole nother genre of music that's gone back to the grassroots of like, yo, let's throw a party in our garage or my backyard and just jam and just have a good time there. So
absolutely, yeah, I agree 100%.
I want to spend some time talking about your role as a mixing engineer versus a. Hey, how you doing? Hold on one second. Hold on one second here. Yeah, sorry. Hey, Aaron. I guess you were entered
I think I sent them the wrong link, and you send them the proper link.
Yeah.
That was my bad.
No problem, Aaron. It was great seeing you, by the way. Thanks for stopping by.
Aaron actually is an important dude. I'll talk to him. I'll talk about him later. He sent me this thing that completed my mixing situation.
So it's not you, it's me. You can find the link on the Google Plus event page, or use the link here. Let me. What I'm gonna do here, Frank, is I'm gonna send you the event page link in your email.
And I'll forward it to him.
Yeah, awesome.
That's why we have big ass phones, so we can do things like that.
Yes. So here you go. Let me send that to you. All right. So Frank, let's talk about the roles between a producer and mixing engineer. Now, you talked about being like that go-to hero of the day for the tech side of things. Like you're in a studio, you were that go-to guy that would you know, save the day, kind of speak. But how does somebody who's producing their own music, you know, in their laptop or even on their phone, they're producing their music, they're kind of on their own, they're playing Han Solo, and we kind of have to wear both hats. We got to be the mixing engineer and the producer, the writer, the artist. It stretches us thin a little bit. So at what point did you feel, or do you feel that people often have to say, okay, I'm either going to be gung-ho and just be full-time mixing engineer, or just forget that and become better producer? Are you seeing people just kind of like float and get... What I'm trying to say is, like, would it do you some good if you realize, you know, I'm not a great beat maker, producer, maybe I should just go ahead and just focus on mixing music and maybe mixing other people's stuff?
I think it depends on what, I mean, I would love to say, I mean, I produce on my free time, which lately is not a lot, thank God, you know. I had a time period where, like, I had plenty of time, and it's a muscle, obviously. The more you do it, the better you get at it, and so on. But I think mixing and producing go hand in hand. Like, if you are a good producer and you were thrown into a mixing situation, you would know from just reflex, oh, that kick should be here, that snare should be there, the vocal should be like this, and you might actually throw production into the mix, which you have to. Like, that's part of mixing. Is the unwritten rule. Mixing, you have to kind of bring a little bit of production from your own end into it, or else you're just making sounds louder, you know? But at the same time, like, there's no demand for my beats. There's no demands for my music. There are other people that make better beats, better music than I can, but I can mix better than they can. So it's one of those things where it's like, when there is a demand, and I've had a time period where, like, people were, like, you know, getting beats off of me, great, let's go. That's what the gig is. That's what the music industry wants from you. That's what you do. Right now, I have a demand for recording, for mixing and mastering. So I need to just concentrate on doing that at the time. I would love to have the time to just sit there and make music, but that's not what the music industry is requiring from me. So I guess in a sense you have to just react to what they want from you. You know what I mean? Like, you, again, Milkman, for example, he has tons of beats from mine. The type of music that he's making right now, it's very specific to, like, his own particular style. He writes off my beats all the time, and then he'll go and make another beat, you know, that fits more. It's like you can send Drake a beat, but then he'll have, what's his name, 40, is it? Like, his main producer or whatever. Like, he'll have that guy do, like, his beats, because that's, hey, we're going in this lane. But this beat that this other dude sent me inspired me to write. So that happens all the freaking time. You know, the point is, like, you can't be sitting there feeling bad about it. You just take the ball and run. You know.
Yeah.
I ain't gonna complain like, yo, so I'm not producing. Okay, but I'm mixing. You know, in a sense that, to me, you're still part of the process. You know, and now if the which I've seen it a long time, many times, if the problem is that people want to, like, have that being in the spotlight type deal. Oh, I'm the producer, you know, I need to be in the spotlight just like the artist. Then that's something else that you need to deal with on your own. You know, the truth of the fact of the matter is that as a mixer and as a mastering engineer, or even recording. When I just did a gig where I was just, traveling to all the Red Bull studios recording. You're not the artist. You're another person that's part of the project, and you can't feel bad when the press releases don't have your name on it. That's the gig. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
It's just whatever the music business throws at you. My philosophy, I just need to be ready. You know what I mean? Like, you just need to be ready. If they want you to mix, hey yo, get to mixing, because that's what you're required to do. Hey, can you make a simple drum beat for this song? I can do that because I flexed that muscle in the past. So it's just a matter of readiness.
I want to just echo that, because one thing I like to tell people is, like, realize what your strength is. If you're finding that you're really good at making melodies and playing chords and producing, if making music comes that naturally to you, then that's your strength. But if you're horrible with lyrics, then maybe you're not the best songwriter, and you should start involving other people in that team. I think one thing that a lot of people underestimate is the value of collaboration at the very early stages of making music. And that might involve someone like yourself saying, hey, listen, I can make these beats, but right now, rather spend 3 years learning how to make that beat or track sound great, let me just work with Frank and have him mix it. So what I wanted to do is, do you see that happening? Do you see people just taking that, that humility and saying, okay, my stuff just isn't sounding that great right now, and instead of just waiting around. Now, obviously, I agree, like, as you go along, the more you flex that muscle, the better your ears become, and the better your ears, the better sounding your beats and tracks will become. But do you think that would be beneficial for somebody who's starting out to say, okay, this stuff isn't there yet, but I need to work with somebody who can make it better? I mean,
I've heard that all the time. Some of my mastering clients, in a sense, have that approach where they feel the production values are there. All the sounds that were chosen were there. All the cuts and the parts and the sections and the arrangement is perfect. They just can't figure out a way to make it all work, like gel together. And that's when they're better. At some point they make the decision to just pass it over. That's one reason. The other reason is their production output is so high that they just don't have the time to just sit there and produce and mix and master, produce and mix and master. So it's like, I'd rather just produce and just send that over, because I got this other idea that I want to work on, which is like, hey, either one of those is fine by me. As long as I can get in their head and get the sound that they're looking for, I'm good to go.
That's awesome. I think that's important for people starting up to know, because then you don't have to take the burden of doing everything yourself. When I started producing, I was like, okay, my beats have to sound. But this is like before YouTube and before access to so much technology. It's buying the MPC and finding the right samples and making sure that your stuff. Now, you should have your stuff sound great. That's why, if your stuff is lacking in sonic and fidelity, I think you should definitely team up with someone like Frank, or someone that that's at your same level, whose strength is mixing and things like that, and have them hey, let me just work on writing the song, producing it, and just give it to this guy to make it sound, so that the burden, believe it or not, doing this small decision can increase your workflow tremendously.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer a couple questions. I've got one really important question. This is coming from Adam. He's asking me, where did I get that hat? And
that's
this is
I was wondering the same thing.
Yeah, this is a very important question. This goes straight to the heart of getting your tracks to sound great. This hat was given to me, was bestowed upon me by the great druids that lived in the land of Hialeah. No, I don't remember. I think it's from Lids or something. I don't remember where I got this hat. All right, guys. Guys, I want to encourage you, throw your questions. We're about to get into the more technical side of things. Throw your questions to us. We'd love to answer them. We've got just a couple. We've got about maybe like 15 minutes left, and then we'll wrap this up. So, Frank, let's dive into mixing. Let's dive into getting some sounds. Sure. All right. So I want to talk about, now there's a rumor going around that you mix in headphones.
Yeah, I do. And
And
the same exact headphones that I'm wearing right now.
those are the headphones. Which headphones are you using to mix? What are those?
Oh, no. I don't know. No, these are the Ultrasound HRF 450, I think they're called. They're definitely the Ultrasound 450s. These actually are, you know what? There they are.
There you go.
There you go. So Hi-Fi 450. They're the ones that we used to issue to the students at the school. So everybody used to get a pair of these. So it wasn't like I went out and I found the best of the best headphones or whatever it might be. It was, those were the headphones that were available. And Ultrasound, like, they sold me the headphones personally, like in a sense of, like, somebody came in and talked about how, like, the technology, like the monitors didn't line up to the ear canal. They actually shot to the ear lobes, so that the sound would bounce into your ear and supposed to go directly into your ear. Hold on, I'm not allowed. I invited the entire company. Okay. Can you check on the Aaron thing? Because he's saying that he's not allowed to. Not allowed in or something like that.
Yeah, let me check that.
So anyway, so yeah, these headphones are, you know, regular ass headphones. They're $150 headphones. You can find them for 99 bucks. I'm sure any other headphone would work, but these are the bomb. You know, this, to me, I got used to them. I could technically pick up a set of Audio Technicas and play a few tracks on them, and, you know, mix a few tracks on them, and then get used to them, and then move on with our life. Main reason why I got these, I use these, and now I got this new thing called a sub pack, which Aaron actually hooked up, which is a subwoofer that goes in your back.
What?
Yeah, you just sit on it. It goes in your chair, and you sit on the subwoofer, which completes the whole bass situation for me. Because the only thing that I have to take a risk on, and it's a small risk at that, because once you hear a couple of tracks, you kind of get used to it, is the whole bass situation with headphones, which a lot of people complain about. But with the sub pack, I literally I feel the bass. So it's almost like on the headphones I can actually, it's like a rumble pack for your whole body. So as the song is playing, it plays through it, and I can actually feel the bass, which is pretty ridiculous.
Wow, that's pretty nice. But you were mixing records before that whole bass.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I got used. Basically, it's all about the reference. You know, you'll get a reference of a song that you really like, or that is in the same vein of the song that you're trying to mix, and then you just, I mean, there's no reason why, if the bass of your reference sounds this way in your headphones, and then your song sounds a particular way, as long as the headphones are as flat as possible, and this is me taking a shot at the Beats headphones. Okay.
Go for it.
As long as the headphones have proper response, like they're as flat as they can possibly be, then there's no reason why the song on the reference and the bass, the mids, and the highs should not translate the same to the song that you're trying to mix. Like Beats headphones, for example, that would be a bad set of headphones to use because they're exaggerated, you know, from the factory. So you would be taking a huge risk on those. These are not. These are pretty flat. So any headphones that's flat from the get-go would be a good set of headphones to start with. And these I love. I mean, we have now some some Sennheiser headphones. I forgot the model of them, and I haven't tried them yet. I tried the 550s of these headphones, and I didn't like them at all. So then they're supposed to be better.
Wow. So, wow. And it definitely takes some time getting used to mixing in headphones. But from my experience, when I try to mix in headphones, I get this weird, like, I think it sounds great. The dimensions there, you know, vocals are sitting right. I pop onto the monitors and things just seem different. But you said a very important part, and that's using a reference to A/B within your headphones, because that's really going to navigate how well, you know, the frequency response and all that stuff is gonna be.
But that goes the same if you have speakers. Like, you can have the $50,000 speakers. If you don't know how they respond to anything, like music, then you're basically flying blind. You don't know when the mix is gonna be good or bad. So, like, behind you, I think those are rockets, no?
Yes.
Yeah, and they're basic as those are basic as fuck.
Yes, they are.
And I mean, I'm sure you're using a reference. You're trying to figure it out, as you go.
Yep.
Well, I mean, I'm surprised. The Rockets versus what are the V6s? No, the V8s.
The V8s, the which ones? The H8s or the Yamahas?
No, the one level up from those.
Okay, yeah.
They're way brighter. They have way less low end. Like those are producing monitors. Because as you're producing, like you get that good feedback from the speakers. You get a good nice kick or bass sound out of them. And then later on, if you don't adjust it properly, then you go back to your car and you're like, yo, where's my bass? That and your ears will probably last longer if you. That's the downside of the headphone situation. Your ears are probably not gonna last as long.
So save your ears, guys. Save your ears. All right. Let's crack open a session. Let's take there's a question someone's asking about. This is coming from Joe Ray. He's mixing your 808s, getting them crisp and feeling it. And I kind of know where Joe's talking about, because you hear these records, even some pop records, and I'm gonna go flat out say that even some like the Black Eyed Peas Boom Boom Pow record, like you'll hear these crisp 808s that are bassy, but yet they've got a nice punch to it. And a lot of the records that you've mixed, like the Diplo, the Major Lazer, even the DJ Craze stuff, it lives in that 808 low sub frequency. So what are some things that you can help to kind of help create that space between a nice, in-your-face, punchy 808 bassy kick? And then we'll go ahead and answer a couple more questions after that. So if you want to bring up a session, we'll focus on that, and we'll spend another 10 minutes and then try to jump in.
Well, the biggest thing is you have to give yourself space in the sense of, for example, this track, this is Biggie Bounce, which I didn't think was going to be, I did this a year ago or a year and a half ago, and then it took them a year to actually put it out, and now it's like in car commercials and stuff like that. I'll put it right at the drop, which I love. This is one of my favorite drops ever.
Biggie bounce, biggie bounce, biggie bounce. Biggie bounce, biggie bounce, biggie bounce. Biggie bounce, biggie bounce. She got a face on her like.
So at that drop, you have how many sounds? 4.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like even when the vocals come in.
She got a face on her like Lisa Ray. Hit the Players Club with the Frito Lay. Nigga try me wrong, it's gonna be your day. Ballet Park, should've seen they face. Did one for Magic 6.
See what I mean? Like there's a horn sound, there's a snare, and there's an 808. So yes, the 808 is an amazing sample. I mean, if you see it right here, it's like this thing came this way, already produced. And I did some EQing and I did some limiting on it, which I basically printed onto the kick itself, because I didn't want to have like between this and this I was getting some weird noise. And this is nothing more than it's like a console emulator, which I'm not even using anymore. Again, I did this a year ago.
Right.
It turned out to be like, it was a pipe dream. It's like, oh, I could simulate a real Neve console with this. All right, and then no, it wasn't doing it. But once I processed this, I mean, if I turn this on, I just added a little bit of brightness to that particular kick, and then this limiter, which is my favorite limiter in the whole wide world, was just keeping that thing from going over.
What's the limiter that you're using? What's that? The BX, the Brainstorm?
No. I use that on the master, but this is for like individual tracks. Like individual tracks, what will happen is that I will process the living crap out of things, like whether it's snares or kicks or whatever it might be. I will process it to hell. Like for instance, this percussion section, I have a multiband, I have an EQ, and I have, again, a limiter. And the whole point of that is, and this is a limiter / maximizer, and the whole point of that is I'm not afraid of...
Hello? I think We lost some audio. Frank, I think you're soloing that track.
Yeah. I need to solo save my microphone track. There you go. So anyway, point being is like I could process this and crank it and punch it up and push it, and this limiter will keep it in check here on the track level, so that when it hits my master, it doesn't completely blow it out. And then let's consider the fact that each one, and notice that each track has a limiter on it.
Wow, that's crazy.
So, like, let's say, for example, that it's gonna hit, it would go over 0 or it would go clipping. The limiter is gonna keep it from clipping, but then my fader goes down, which means that I'm 5 dBs down from 0, and that's what's gonna head over to my master fader. Now, on the master fader, I got 2 right now because this is the one that's going out to you guys, and this is mine in here. On the master fader, again, I had this stupid thing that I don't use anymore. I mean, if you like it, more power to you, but I hate it. And an EQ, which I think is essential. An EQ on the master fader, it's one of those things that like glues in a sense. The compressor, I actually am not doing anymore. The EQ, if you're having issues with bands, like, oh, for example, I knocked out. And this EQ is pretty cool because you can actually hear it as you're sweeping it. So let me play it from here. So that part, like, I notched that one out because it was the resonance of that particular snare was, when it combined with everything, was out of hand. So by me notching it out from the master, it was making space in that frequency range.
What is? Because I don't think it's showing on the screen. All I see is the. This is Pro Tools, by the way, so I don't know if the EQ doesn't pop up. And I see your screen, but it's not.
Oh, okay. I thought I wasn't sharing. The EQ did it pop up? No.
No. Is it pop up as a separate window? Maybe Google has it, or just drag it on. I see your Pro Tools window.
Okay. You don't see? Am I moving anything on that window?
No.
Let me see. That's weird.
Yeah.
Is the window static right now?
No. Like I'll see the LED. I'll see your volume levels and.
Oh, that's weird. Maybe hold on. Maybe if I share screen and maybe that is a different window. It would make sense. Hold on. Share screen. No, it's not showing me that particular window. Pro Tools. No, I'll just stick with this. This EQ is a Brainworks digital V2, I believe.
But you're using the EQ to kind of to move, to glue guys together frequency-wise, and not so much compression on the master fader.
No, exactly. This is just making space, because as you slam this master fader, you have to make space, like frequency space, not amplitude space. Because amplitude, if you want to compete nowadays with the stuff that everybody else is putting out there, you have to forget about 0. Like, completely forget it, and just let it go over 0. That's what nobody wants to talk about. That's why I don't even call myself a mastering engineer.
Don't say it. Don't say it.
I don't. I'm a loudness agent. I just make shit loud, cohesively, but I make shit loud. Yeah. That's the only thing you can do. So I don't even think about 0. I mean, it's unfortunate if you can't see what's showing on the screen, because the other plugin that I have there is a harmonic enhancer and a limiter maximizer at the same time.
Okay, that's also fun. That's Brainworks.
Brainworks, yeah. With the added bonus that it doesn't stop anything at 0.
Okay.
So that it's when basically my life changed the moment that I found this particular plugin. Let me see if I could zoom in. Maybe you could.
Well,
no, yeah.
Let's talk about creating space. Because coming from by the way, guys, I'm gonna talk about later on a special offer that I'm doing for the next Beat Academy music producer bootcamp that's starting in January. And a lot of what Frank is talking about, if this sounds like Japanese to you and you don't really know exactly what we're talking about, what's going on, don't worry about it, because we go into detail in giving you the coaching you need to produce the music that you want to produce. And all this is kind tailored into that package. But let's talk about creating space, because here's a session that you got from Diplo, and you could see it's like he found the sounds he likes. He found the drums, the right kick and stuff like that. And I think we've got a kick and not really a kick and a bass, right? We just have like an 808 that he's using. Were you able to hear me, or I think you soloed?
Muted it this time. I'm an idiot.
Oh.
No, it's he uses just 808s in this track. There's no actual bass. The horns bring in an element of bass, but the rest of the time there's either 808s or there's not.
Gotcha. And I think that's me as a producer starting off. I was always confused. I thought there would be a kick drum and then an 808 together, and that could cause some problems in our session. So you're saying it's all about that space, like less is more kind of thing, right?
Yeah, that's something actually I learned from my wife. Less is more. Seriously.
Yeah.
Like I would produce and make all these super complex tracks with like quadrillion sounds, and she's like, "Dude, that is so busy. Why don't you like just use like these three?" And it didn't dawn on me until later. And then later it was like, "Oh crap." You know, the less sounds you have, concentrate on having good sounds. Then, and this is something also that I learned by working with like Diplo and the Matt Decent camp. Like some of these sessions, man, if I showed you, you'd be like, holy crap, man, there's nothing in that session. But the sound selection is really what makes those tracks. Having great sounds will beat out having, 5-layer kicks 10 days out of the week.
All right. I've got a question coming in. We got some time to answer them. I think we'll wrap up in about 7 minutes. I said that like 15 minutes ago. So I've got a question coming in from Uzi Beats. He's asking, why not use gain staging instead of a limiter?
I mean, I don't know what he means by gain staging.
I think probably Uzi, if you, I think he, I don't know, but maybe like talking about having, instead of limiting every track, why not just have the tracks live low on the, start with small headroom?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, this is a very particular case, and most of my EDM tracks, they will have a lot of limiters. The organic stuff that I mix, maybe on the drums I'm gonna have the same treatment, but then everything else is gonna it's gonna go more on the compressor side of things. Now, the thing about the whole limiter situation is that, unfortunately for dance music, you have to be louder than the next guy in order to compete with the next guy, or almost to be accepted as equals. I don't know if I'm explaining myself.
Yeah.
So there's this thing in mastering, not necessarily in mastering, but just in loudness in general, that and it just sucks that I cannot open any plugins here. But there's this thing called an RMS meter, right? Which means root means square. Root means square, which is essentially the best measurement of loudness that you can have on any type of metering. So if you do peak metering, for example, anything can go over 0. Now, if you do RMS, what happens is you can, depending on the numbers that you get, you can almost see how much louder, or how the ear will perceive this. If you just do gain structure or gain staging on an EDM track, you are gonna get good amount of loudness, but you're gonna get too many dynamics. And unfortunately, in most EDM music, dynamics are not required. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, I get you. I mean, I come from another, and he backed it up with another question. He was asking gain staging like Jason Joshua does. He sets the levels to -18 decibels equals 0 VU. But yeah, it's different because in the pop side. Yeah, go ahead.
But that's when you match, for example, digital metering with like VU metering, which is analog metering, and that's usually the case. Between -15 and -18, that's 0 VU on a VU meter. But even on a VU meter, you have +1, +2, +3, +4 above 0.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, but the situation here being is that if you want to achieve the level of loudness that, for example, everybody else in the EDM world is putting out there, you have to have a constant level of loudness on just about every track. And then do the magic trick of making that work. So everything's loud as shit. How do I make it work? You have to make frequency space as opposed to amplitude space. Because even if you give yourself a little bit of amplitude space, that drop off where it feels like you would have a really low dynamic point, it would almost feel like, yo, what happened there? And I've gotten that question. Like, how come this part right here is not as loud as that part over there? And it's like, holy shit. So then you have to somehow bring that up also. Because unfortunately in the dance world, in EDM specifically, not necessarily all dance music, loud is better.
Yeah, that's yeah, I know. That's been a war of mine. See, me coming from the pop side and working on like stuff like, you know, when I'm working on a Kelly Rowland record, or I'm doing something right now, just getting ready to work on some Robin Thicke stuff. It's crazy because I come from that pop, urban, you know, hip hop mentality where dynamics are great, and if I keep bringing all this like EDM loud, they're just like, it's just crazy. But you're right. It's like, you know, the Skrillex and all the EDM stuff that's out there, it's just from the moment you hit play, it drop kicks you in the mouth, and
then it keeps kicking you and keeps kicking you until you're like, okay, I'm done. Okay.
Yeah.
You know, but that's what is required. Now,
yeah, so you're saying that's almost part of the package. Like if you're gonna go in that lane, if you're producing music of that sort, it's almost like it almost comes along with the territory, right?
Yeah, it's something that you have to kind of learn to accept. I had a funny moment with Diplo when we were doing Express Yourself, for instance. It's specifically that song, Express Yourself. He wasn't getting loud enough for him. And at the time, I was using limiters in the master to keep it from going over zero, because at the time I was religiously, no, we're not going over zero, we're not clipping is bad. So I was failing him in a sense because I wasn't able to deliver the level of loudness that he required. So there was a moment where accidentally I have one track. This is when Pro Tools went from 9 to 10 and the I/O got really funky. And you can have like main output, two different main outputs that would be labeled the same, but they would come out of different places. And I had one main output that wasn't going through my limiter, and the other one that was. So most of the music was going through the limiter. The vocals weren't going through the limiters, and they were going way over zero, like way over zero, like exactly what I'm doing now. And he was like, I sent him that print, and he's like, yo, whatever you're doing, that's exactly what it is. And I'm like, what the fuck did I do? So then I went back to the session, and I started looking at it, and then I realized, holy shit, none of the vocals are going through the limiter. The vocals are actually going, like, they're basically clipping. And after I started clipping, that's when he's like, Eureka, that's exactly what I want. So that was like, I think now, from now on, I need to push the envelope, you know, somehow manage to go over zero while still keeping it listenable without distortion. But going over zero and distortion are two completely different things.
Yeah, can you spend like a little bit talking about that? I mean, this will answer this guy's question. Uzi's also asking your final output level on your mixes. Do you master as you mix, or
yes?
So you kind of like, or you mix completely, then you master after?
No, I'm trying to coin the term. I actually talked to a lawyer about copyrighting the word mixter.
Mix.
Yeah, because I mix and master at the same time, and with EDM tracks, that's kind of the deal. You have to mix and master, because the producers, like you guys, when you're done, chances are, if you're not going to master it, you should be putting out product that needs to go out. Like if you're not going to send it out to mastering.
Right.
So if you're going to send it out to a mastering engineer, then you have to kind of, you know, bring down the level so that I have room to do something, and all I'm going to do is essentially make it so that even if we go over zero a whole lot, it doesn't sound distorted. But if you're not, if you're just, hey, I need this remix ASAP, and you're in charge of doing the whole process, you have to mix and master and send it out the door. And in order to have levels that are consistent, you have to consider the fact that you need to go over 0. I mean, Logic has been doing this forever. Logic goes over 0 all the time, and the thing is that they number it, so people don't think you're going over 0. But you're being, every time you see it go red and it's like +6, +8, you're over 0.
Gotcha. So let's kind of bring this to a close a little bit. What are some practical tips for, because we got a lot of guys, guys that I'm coaching personally, guys that I'm kind of bringing under my wing. That's one thing I really love about this thing that I'm doing with Beat Academy, is that like I'm able to like personally coach these guys and get them opportunities to where they can remix and work alongside with me on projects. But one thing I tell them is like, listen, you're gonna have to like master your sound, like create your own business card. Your business card is your sonic card, right? What are some practical tips as someone like yourself who mixes as you go along? I know one thing you shared about the limiting. I think that was a really good thing that you brought up about limiting, because a lot of guys they feel like they fall short. They're like, man, my tracks just don't punch hard enough like these other guys do. And I think you solved a lot of that by I was always afraid to limit inside limiting. Like, I thought limiter was only reserved for the master fader, but you're saying, hey, you can limit tracks inside, not necessarily just the master fader, but you should use your limiter more often than just one time on the master fader.
I mean, it's something that I kind of ran into as working, like I'm sure it's a common practice now, but I kind of just ran into it. And again, this doesn't apply for every genre. I'm in the middle of doing a rock album, and I'm not doing that with the rock album. I'm doing I forgot who it was. I'm doing an EDM album for an artist from Australia. There's a lot of that going on. It depends on the genre, but I mean, when it comes to punch, first of all, you have to organize yourself. I get sessions where the bass is like where the vocals are, and the kick is somewhere in between the drums, and the snare is up here, and I'm talking about order, like just if I look at the session, and I have no idea how they went about mixing this thing, because I always start at the bass, and I work my way down to vocals with like bass, kick, snare, and I'm not saying like sonically the things that relate. I'm saying musically the things that would go after the next one. For example, if I get the bass to sound right, like, and by right I mean like it's sitting there, it's sitting pretty, I hear all the notes, I hear, it's the way it's supposed to be. Then when I work on the kick, the bass is there, I just need to make sure that this kick works with the bass. Okay, now the kick and the bass work together, and you can do a number of things, EQ, and you can do side chaining, you can do whatever you need to do so that that kick and that bass work together. Okay, now I'm going to work on the snare. Why? Because it's bass, kick, snare. Is the kick works well, now I'm going to go to the snare and make that work well with the kick, which works well with the bass. Okay, what's next? Maybe toms or hi-hat. Or hi-hat's easy enough. Usually on real drums, I don't even use the hi-hat. You got overheads that like have plenty of hi-hat. The hi-hat is just a distraction at that point. So are we going to keep the hi-hat or not? We're going to keep it? Okay, pan it. Okay, there's a hi-hat. And move on to the next sound and the next sound and the next sound. In EDM, it's the same thing. Start with the bass, work your way all the way down to vocals. Because if one thing works, the next one, sonically or arrangement-wise, should work with the previous one. And you could essentially, that's to me mixing. Okay, now this works, now this works, now this works. Okay, keep moving down. And if I get to the vocals, that means that musically everything worked.
Yeah.
Okay. So then let's make the vocals work with this music. And at that point, then I could get into the gain staging. Because at that point, my master fader may be completely blown out. So I have no space for vocals. So then at that point, I'll grab all the faders, just bring them down 5, 6, 10 dBs, so that the vocals, when I start bringing them in, work with the music. And then I may bring everything up from there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's all about organizing. Keep it. Like, I would start with bass and then work your way down to vocals. Make the vocals be the very last thing.
Gotcha. I feel the same way. Let's go. Let's wrap it up with some questions from the guys outside, and then we'll let you get back to breakdance fighting, because I know that's what we do on our Friday nights.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So here's a question from Aaron. Aaron made his way through. Why does loudness equal quality, and does it really?
It doesn't equal quality. It equals loudness. The problem with that is that the kids out there like loudness.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it would be amazing, like what iTunes tried to do with the Master for iTunes stuff. That would have been amazing if it had worked, but it doesn't, because if you master for iTunes the way they want to, and you listen to your track versus every other track, you come out like you're here, and then everything else is up here, and then that's perceived as, hey, you're not professional, your sound is not professional, you know, and that's the problem essentially. Now let's see. If I'm doing a jazz album, which I don't think I'll ever do,
You got to bring it. Come on now, come on. We call it El Medico Ellington. You gotta. You know what? We'll get you some.
Some Tito Puente Jr. No. You know what? I did do a Juan Luis Guerra album, and here's when, for example, I didn't do the album. I worked on it with somebody. Eye-opening moment. Brass, recording brass for that album. This is Tropical Brass.
Yeah.
They were clipping the crap out of the input converters. Like, clipping the crap out of them. And until they clipped the crap out of the input converters, they were not getting that really splashy, in-your-face brass sound that you expect from that kind of music. If you just want like old softball on it, you get softball sounding brass. But whenever they did that, it was like, yo, that sounds like the way it's supposed to sound like. So it's like it's something that we don't want to say we do, but it's something that we kind of have to do. And I'm not saying, hey, fuck it, just clip and distort everything. I'm saying you're gonna have to clip. People don't need to know that you're clipping, and people won't know because you're gonna make it so that it doesn't sound like you are clipping. That's the magic trick, right there.
Crazy. All right, so let's round these up. Can you give us one of your favorite mixing plugins that you pretty much can't live without, besides the L1?
Multi-band compressor.
Which one?
The C4 is usual suspect. Now here's the thing. I wish I could open up a page and show you that. But there's a multi-band compressor that I started using like two weeks ago from FabFilter.
Oh, that's awesome.
Dude, that's when I started using that damn. It's like,
yeah.
It's I don't even know how many bands you can do with that damn thing. But I was just like, where has this been my whole life? You know.
It's tell everybody what it is. It's the FabFilter.
That MB, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Let me look it up. FabFilter multiband.
Yeah, that's dope.
Do the same thing. That thing blew my mind. As a matter of fact, anything FabFilter blows your mind.
Yeah, they're on point. I love their stuff. That's FAB.
Yeah, FA Pro MB. The FabFilter Pro MB.
All right. So do you track? Here's another question. This is from FL Friedman. Do you track do you do a lot of editing and stuff like that, or is that something that usually is done before you receive the track to mix? And I think we're probably talking about like maybe vocal chops, or how much vocal editing do you usually do? Because me, in the pop world, that's a nightmare, and that happens all the time. Same thing with the Spanish, man. That's why I'd rather just make the record, make the hits, and not mix them.
I just did the most amount of tracking that I've ever done in my life was in the last year, because the Toy and Camilo from Mexican Institute of Sound somehow convinced Red Bull to fly us around the world to record for their album. So we started in New York. For Red Bull Studios in New York. If you've never been, you should try to somehow get there, because it's an amazing studio. Then we went to LA and we recorded over there. Then we went to London and we recorded over there. And then we went to Sao Paulo and recorded over there. The most amount of tracking I've ever done in my life. When it comes to editing, because I'm tracking it, I know exactly what stays and what goes.
Yeah.
So, like, if I'm recording it, there's going to be very little editing that's going to happen, because if I know that take is not going to go, I just dump it, let's do it again. And if you're tracking, you should totally be in the same mindset. Now, they tracked it and they sent it to me for mixing. The only editing that I can do is tuning, obviously. If you don't know how to do tuning, you better learn. because that's something that is expected.
That's where it's at right now.
Yep, you gotta. I mean, it's not. Oh, they sang it well. No, but is it perfect? I don't know. Well, then you know what? Pop the tuner in there because it has to be perfect. So tuning, that's editing. That's part of editing now. Vocal aligning, which it's you know, in the whole favorite plugins. If vocal line, if they stop making that plugin, I will probably quit.
Everybody, the whole industry would collapse.
Yeah, completely. Like they cannot. Like we would all pull in money and send it to what is it? I forgot the company.
Line or whatever.
Whatever, so that they can bring the plugin back. Because vocal line is. Do you know what? Bring as many freaking vocal stacks as you like. I don't give a shit. I got vocal line. I could just use that to line them up. So vocal line, tuning, any random breaths, like. You don't cut out the breaths, obviously, because they are human and they breathe. But if they're exaggerated breathing, you have to kind of lower that stuff. And just general cleaning, you know, that's as far as I can take it. When it comes to vocal chops, you have to leave it to you, like Ivan or any other producer, because that's a production call. That's total arrangement. Yeah. Oh, wouldn't it be cool if we put like a dude? That's not my call.
Yeah.
You know, and you might actually be stepping on toes by doing that. But if or the producer, which in this Australian project it happened, the producer asked me to do some chops, so then I had to go in and do the vocal chopping, and they were very specific about it. It's like, oh, can you do this? You know, 16 note, quarter note. Yeah, sure, no problem. You know, I've done it in the past for my own stuff, so I could do it for them.
Cool.
But editing vocals, man, that's a slippery slope, man.
No, yeah. Well, guys, thanks for your questions. I think we're just kind of wrapping up with the time here. Yo, Frank, thank you for being awesome, man. And what I want to do is just kind of extend, you guys, if you need Frank, you know, you're currently mixing. I mean, you're that's what you're doing. As you can see, you're traveling the world, busy as you are. But how can people reach you if they want to go ahead and, you know, get some even some mixes done by you or anything? Is there any way I could send them, or any way they can get in touch with you?
Well, Twitter's the first place.
What's your
like Frank El Medico all together, and then if you want to email me, frank@frankelmedico.com. That's it really. You know,
Frank, yes, just spell that out. It's Frank at
Frank ELMEDICO El Medico ELMEDICO.
Gotcha.
Frank at Frank El Medico, and then Frank El Medico is my Twitter handle. If you don't get the email, you hit me on Twitter.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna hit you back.
Gotcha. Cool. Now, guys, for those of you who are watching, go ahead.
If they have any questions, also like just hit me on the Twitter, and I don't have any issues. I'm a teacher by trade during the day, and I'm not part of the generation of don't share the secrets. It's like I don't do.
No, I think. And that's why I wanted you on board. I know you and I share the same thing. I mean, I had somebody ask me in class, like, you know, why are you doing this? I mean, you're working with big artists, and why are you doing this? Well, first of all, I love doing it, and second of all, I'm looking for people to bring on my team. That's a whole nother thing, because if I can come to you and say, hey, so and so needs a record, and if you're in my squad, you get a piece of that pie. And third of all, I think it's good to coach and mentor people with this generation, because, you know, with being able to access everything so fast on YouTube and everything, I think it's taken away that human collaboration element of you know, and that experience. So, which leads me to a couple of things, guys. If you're watching this and you're really, you know, excited about, you know, getting that right sound and producing music, I know there's a couple guys watching from Beat Academy. I want to extend a special offer. I've got a boot camp happening January 13th. I've got a boot camp happening January 13th next year. I don't know when I'm going to do the next one after that. My schedule is looking really crazy after that. This boot camp is amazing. We do 8 weeks, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 6 to 9, mixing, music theory, mastering, programming, career development, everything you would expect, being coached by myself and other guys as talented as Frank. So we do this coaching because A, we want to see you produce your music that you're passionate about making, and B, like I said, I'm looking for guys to step on board on my team, because I'm getting hit all the time with projects, and I just don't have the time and resources. So It's kind of like you know, a mentor scouting thing. I want to offer a special discount price for you guys from the general pricing. So just visit the site, and all you got to do is you go to if you go ahead and we're the mybeatacademy.com. That's mybeatacademy.com, and you go into the contact us section, or you can even go into the where I have courses, and if you go into bootcamp and just give me your name and information there, I'll contact you, and I'll make sure that you get to take advantage of the special offer. Just mention that you are part of this hangout, and I'm going to give you an exclusive offer only through this hangout. So definitely, guys, you're awesome. Thanks for your questions. Hit up Frank, and looking forward to doing a lot more of these. Frank, you're amazing. Thank you. All right, have a good night, guys. Take care. Peace out, man.
All right, guys. Have a good one. Bye.